collecting 10 gallons of water so I can go put it on the corn. But this water cleared up a lot. I used the hole logger, and I decided to use the hole logger to just take out a bunch of material because I was having a hard time shoveling it out of here because it was full of water already. But the auger keeps all the material in it, and then you just pull it out and put it to the side. And I'm damming this up here. I'm gonna do a little more work on it a little later, but this is from the other day. I did this like 2 days ago, and it's way deeper now. I can definitely get 10 gallons of water without kicking up stuff from the bottom, which is a lot of help because when I use it for like cleaning myself or washing dishes and stuff, I have to filter it heavily through like a t-shirt or something to get all that sediment out. But now that that hole's deep enough, I can scoop out without getting the majority of that sediment. So that's going to save me a step, at least one of the filtering. I usually filter it twice, and the first one the shirt gets dirtied up so quick that I have to wash the shirt every 2 days too, just to keep it clear so the water will pass through it. But this is like I'd say about 2 feet deep now. So I can put some rings around this. I can just put some stones around this. Or I can get some patio stones, the curved ones, and make like a well. And there is water here. I mean, I have water here, and there is a well here. So if I just get a pump and an extension cord, I could probably pull this water from down here up to somewhere else. And if I could dig that out to like 4 feet maybe, or 3 feet, and widen it a little bit, that'll be big enough for at least some water. You could probably do like 30 or 40 gallons a day out of there without having a problem, or at a time, not even a day. Because as soon as I take this water out, about 5 minutes later, it's full again. So it's producing lots of water. It's got to be producing like 5 or 6 gallons a minute probably. Or no, I'd say like, I was thinking per hour. It's probably producing like 20 gallons per hour. So it's not like a super fast spring, but spring water here. So thank God we have it. 90 degrees today, so I got to get this water up to the corn. All right, July 29th, it's day 92 out here. So those are prolific squashes, and I put some summer squash in here, but I don't see any of those coming up. But those prolific squash are coming up real fast now, and there's tons of them. There's like 20 of them in each plant. So in the next 4 or 5 days, I'm gonna have a lot of those. That's the third zucchini I've pulled out of here this year, but only one good one today. So it has been pretty difficult, this garden, the last couple days. It's been 90 degrees and like 80% humidity, super hot. And this garden has dried out. Haven't lost it or anything, but it's been pretty dry. I've probably come close. The corn even kind of curled up on me yesterday, but I put a crap load of water on it last night, and they kind of came back, and now the corn look fine. And they're shooting some, I see some pollen satchels coming out of them. So they're gonna start putting on corn here in the next, I don't know, I should probably see them in the next week. At least them start, you know. Then over the next month they'll get big. Tomato plant's doing great, cucumber plant's doing great. Hear a car going down the road, I think. Yep. You can see there's a couple wilted ones. I just threw a bucket of water. I just like threw a bucket of water over it, 5 gallons, to put a little water in there. But this is the hugelkultur side, and the hugelkultur side has a lot of flowers and a lot of fruit started, but the fruit aren't fattening up really fast on this side. But it's really sandy here too, so every day at about 3 o'clock when it's the hottest, this stuff is all wilting. But then once 5:30, 6 o'clock comes, it perks right back up. So there must be moisture under the ground. It's just not enough moisture that during the day these giant leaves on these squash plants can sustain themselves. But the plants aren't dying, so they're doing okay. And I'm putting a little water on them in the morning and a little water in the evening. kind of give them a fighting chance against these really hot days. So we'll see how it goes. We are harvesting squash out of it right now, and that's about it. The potatoes are probably about, I don't know, a month out, another month or so, not even, maybe 3 weeks. We'll start digging up all these potatoes, and then we can get them out of here, because these potatoes are taking up a lot of space and the squash is already growing into that space. So as soon as these potatoes are big enough, we're gonna pull those up. Kale's doing good though, and kale will wilt on you really quick. So if the kale's staying fairly hard and not getting all floppy, then there must be pretty good moisture in there. Those watermelon plants are trying to break out of that squash and corn there. It's kind of closed in, but some of it has made it over on the other side of the fence, so should have some watermelons out there hopefully starting up. It's flowering right now. Got a pumpkin over there on the fence started. Another pumpkin plant over here, but it doesn't have any pumpkins on it. But everything's going pretty good. I mean, considering the only fertilizer we put in this whole space was those 3 bags of cow manure, and then that 1 bag of whatever it is, Coast of Maine fertilizer mix. And all of that went on this side. Just on this side of the garden, right here. Just this side. And this side keeps water, you know. This one's the one that dries out a little bit, the hugelkultur bed, but that's because all the wood and stuff was put down this year. I think after this winter's and that wood underneath the hugelkultur bed gets a winter to break down and absorb water, that next summer, hopefully, this one will be holding water a little bit better. But it's doing fine for potatoes, so next summer we might just put potatoes on both sides. You know, the squashes have such a big leaf on it, they need a lot of water, quite a bit of water. So we're probably just gonna do potatoes here next year. But this side really isn't having a problem. Sometimes a couple of these squash plants will wilt a little bit, but you can see they're not wilting now. They're all pretty much praying over on this side. So this is the side that we moved all the dirt from, that we found down by the cabin when we were clearing land down there. And we hauled it all up here in the wheelbarrow. Well, it was definitely worth it, because this side of the garden is producing way more and it stays a lot wetter. But that corn is sucking up the moisture. So I have to put at least 10 gallons a day on just the corn, that 1 row of corn. There's a lot of water. But we're only doing 20 gallons a day right now, and this is the hottest time of the year. And you know, it was raining. We went 3 weeks without putting any water on this. But now that we're at the end of July going into August, it's gonna stop raining all the time. Hopefully we can still get once a week good rain, but I don't know. That might be asking for a lot. August and September are the driest months in Maine usually. So we'll see what happens. But she's still alive and she's producing something. I don't know about those prolific squashes. I planted a couple of those plants, and that's probably why they call them prolific squash, because they just blow up so many squashes. A couple of these plants are supposed to be summer squash, but I don't see any in there. I've only been getting zucchini and these prolifics. I'm gonna give some of those to the neighbor. Well, evening in 92 still, and all of my salad bar is taking way too much water to keep alive. Plus, there's way more than I can even eat, you know? You see how full this is? And I've still been eating a salad every like 3 or 4 a week. Like a big salad, like a main meal is a salad. So, I don't know, these ones are starting to bolt. See that? Flowers are starting, that's spinach. I only got like 1 cut off of that. Pretty much all the big leaves got cut once, and then after that it started bolting. But it's just so hot, 90 degrees, with that little of a pan. It's hard to keep these alive. This is Swiss chard, which all the really big good ones I'm gonna cut off and bring to camp. But we're getting rid of this flat right here. It's taking too much water to keep watered, and stuff is already bolting, so we're gonna get rid of that. We're gonna keep this one going, although it takes a lot of water, especially that corner. But we're gonna keep that one going, and we might cut out some plants that are doing really good, like this one. This is a nice romaine. We're gonna cut that out and put that in some soil in the ground. It'll take a lot less water. I'm gonna keep this one going. I'm gonna put those pepper plants in the ground finally. And just kind of clear this table off because it's just taking way too much water to water this. Got to put those in the ground. A couple of those are bolting already though. That's the basil. So we're gonna get rid of that. And we have some of those in the ground that are doing fine. Way more than enough basil than we'd ever need. So that's what's going on with the vegetables here. It's just getting so hot. Hard to keep lettuce going. And it takes too much water. Gotta haul the water constantly. And I don't really want to deal with it too much. I want to deal with extra stuff. To have these pots right here, I have to put like 4 gallons a day into these ones. And this one has tomatoes, cucumbers, green beans, and kale. The kale's doing great, so I have plenty of greens in that one. Then I have this thing right here. And this has broccoli and Brussels sprouts and cantaloupe. And some more of those hot peppers. And some basil in there somewhere, but it's pretty much being covered now. There's some Swiss chard too. So we're gonna keep those going. But the little flats just getting to the point where it's too much hassle. It's not worth the $5 in salad I save every week. But we're gonna have some in the ground anyway still. So the ones in the ground will keep producing stuff, and we're just not gonna get these baby greens anymore. But it's late in the summer for baby greens anyways. So getting rid of some of them. Well, day 93, it's 90 degrees. Been a pretty rough day as far as heat. I've been putting water on the garden, but those squash on the hugelkultur side just aren't doing it. It's too sandy. That stuff is too sandy. I definitely needed to mix something else in that side. Once the wood underneath it breaks down, that might help a lot, but since that stuff's all pretty fresh, it's having a hard time. It's still living, but it's wilting a lot during the hot times of the day. Well, we're up at the cabin, and we're building outhouse number 2. For number 2, did I show you this water collection system I have? I need to put a better barrel on it, but this thing is awesome. Over there it is right there. That's where we're putting this outhouse. So there'll be one down by the cabin, so people can take a dump when they need to down here. So that's what I'm working on today. 90 degrees, like 70-80% humidity. It's pretty rough. Training for the jungle. I can see on the trash can there's another print. It looks like a raccoon print from last night. Dirty little bastards. If they can't smell a bag in there, they won't open it though. Alright, well, I guess I'm going to throw these walls up on this outhouse and then probably call it a night, and tomorrow I'll put the siding on it. Well, day 94. The garden perks up every night, you know. During the day when it's really hot, this garden's having a hard time. Wilts all out. But it perks up every night, and every morning it's looking great. And I put some water on it, and it does pretty good until about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And once 3 o'clock comes, everything wilts down for a couple hours. But, I mean, nothing I can do about that. I can't get more than like 40 gallons of water on this one a day. It'd just be way too many trips to where my water's at. Plus I have another garden too that I'm dealing with that uses about 40 or 30 or 40 gallons. So right now I'm hauling like 80 to 100 gallons a day. That's 10 trips to the water source. That's pretty bad. Pretty rough. Especially when it's 90 degrees. But look at that. Russet potatoes. That's what we just harvested from one plant. We pulled up a plant that was right there. It's getting crowded out by these pumpkins, and these pumpkins are starting to put pumpkins on, so I want to give them the space. And yeah, I want to get some potatoes in me, so I figured I'd harvest some potatoes. So that's what we get from one plant. And if we let them go until the end of the month, which is when they really be done, they would probably be twice the size there. right there we got like 2 pounds of potatoes. So that's the second plant I've pulled up this year, and the first one I pulled up really early and the potatoes were really small. But I would say we're at about 3 pounds of potatoes so far. So 2 more pounds of potatoes and we cover the bag of seed potatoes that we had in there. So that's just probably gonna be one more plant. And we got like, I don't know, I'd say we have 10 or 11 plants here. So we definitely did 3 times or 4 times, I'm sure, what we planted we're gonna get back. Which you can get a lot more than that with potatoes, but I'm growing in sand here. The potatoes are in really sandy soil, and I haven't watered them. Haven't watered them at all, really. No, I haven't watered them at all. The potatoes I haven't been giving water to this whole time. And they're doing pretty good. You know, they're still putting on flowers. And look, they look healthy. They look healthy and happy. Potatoes are still doing great. And that's pretty dry. I mean, it's 90 degrees every day here. It's really humid, and there is a condensation cycle that happens in the morning. So I guess that's been giving them enough water to do what they need to do, because these potatoes are quite a bit bigger than the ones that I harvested about 2.5 weeks ago. So they are getting bigger, and they're doing their thing. But I wanted to eat some potatoes, plus I'm going to bring some vegetables down to the neighbor that gave me all the grass to grow all this. I want to go down and bring him and his wife some fresh vegetables. So, finishing watering the garden, and then I'm going to go and put the siding on the second outhouse. And we're waiting for the mill because I can't put sheets of plywood on my vehicle. It's too far. It's like a 40-minute ride to the mill, and that's just too far to have all kinds of stuff that doesn't fit on top of my car strapped to my car. And also I need 2 pieces of metal sheeting, like metal roof sheeting, and it's not safe putting that on the car, and definitely not safe putting it in the car with me. So we're waiting for the mill to deliver that. Who knows when it's going to be. Sometimes I've waited as much as 2.5 weeks for an order from the mill before, because they only come up to this area when they have a full truck, and I only ordered 4 small things, so there's got to be a lot more orders up here. There's a couple towns up above me that he has to drive through my town to get to those towns, and there's a couple people doing construction up there, so I'm just waiting for them to make an order, and then when they make an order, he'll go past my place and he'll drop all that large stuff I can't fit in the car off. It's 92 degrees yesterday, 80% humidity, pretty rough. Never rained. It was supposed to rain last night and it never did, and it's supposed to be thunderstorms and rain this morning, and if you can see, it's blue skies. So I'm trying to put some water on the gardens, and hopefully it doesn't get too hot today, and hopefully these gardens are doing pretty good. I mean, every single plant has something going on. You know, the corn is putting off its pollen sacs. The tomatoes all have flowers and a couple of really small green tomatoes starting. And all of the squash have squash on them. The pumpkins have pumpkins on them. Looking pretty good. The only thing that's not doing anything, the watermelon has flowers on it, but the watermelon does not have any kind of watermelon started, which, you know, it's the end of July, or tomorrow's the 1st. Yeah, either today's the 1st or tomorrow's the 1st of August. I don't know, I have to check the calendar. It's one or the other. We should have some watermelon starting on that thing, but I don't know, maybe the lack of water out here right now has been hurting it. But next year, I'm putting a real well in, and I'm putting it right next to the garden, so I can just run a hose to this thing. And you guys think I grew a lot of stuff this year? Wait until I have water right here at the garden. I'm pretty good at growing. That's one thing I'm really good at. I'm getting better at construction too now that I'm getting all this work done. My cuts are getting a lot straighter, and things are a lot more plumb and coming out a lot more even. But gardening I'm really good at. I've always been good at that, so as long as there's water, I can definitely grow stuff. Well, there she is so far. I'm gonna cut the siding up and start putting it on it. framing out this window right now, and that's the window that was gonna go in the cabin, but I don't know. I don't think that that's a good window for the cabin. I gotta find a better one. And I might just close that wall up for now, and next spring I'll worry about putting a window in. I'm worried that this window is not gonna seal up right, and I don't want water behind that wall in the cabin. You know, it would be right there. I wanted to put it right there, have a vent up there. But, I mean, if water leaks in and you get mold behind the wall, ruin the cabin. So, I don't know, I need a window in that back bedroom, but I'm not gonna use that one right now, so I'm putting it in here. This outhouse is a little bit skinnier, like not as wide as the one up by the canvas tent. This one will be easier to move though, and the one by the cabin will probably have to be moved at least once a year. New hole and fill in this hole so it doesn't get too bad. So I'm gonna finish this thing up. Alright, well, I don't know, it's like day 96 or something, I think. I'm filling up these buckets. This is my second load, so it's 20 gallons I've taken out of here in the last like half an hour. And there's the line right there. It'll flow through here. There'll be a little like stream of water going through there when it's full all the way. But it's pretty deep now. I'd say at the deepest area, this section right here is probably like, I don't know, 3.5, 4 feet deep. So there's a lot of water in there now. And if I leave it for like 2 hours, it'll fill back up to the point where it's draining. So I don't know. That's probably only 20 or 30. It's probably only about 10, 20 gallons an hour that I get in here. Something like that. It might be a little more than that, but it's probably around 20 gallons an hour. That's what this thing produces. I don't know, I have to time it because maybe it will fill up sooner than that. I just usually wait a half an hour to an hour before I come back, but it's been a half an hour since I took the last 10 gallons out, and I just filled another 10 gallons, and it's just barely below that line. But as I'm sitting here, I can already see it's risen a little bit. So, it fills up pretty fast actually. I don't know, it might be like 40 gallons an hour, but I'd have to like drain it and come down here and time it and see exactly. But it's a pretty wild spot to be collecting your water. And this is the hill I have to go up with it. I can go around and go out there through the meadow and then go up the hill. And it's not such an incline, but it's a lot further of a walk, and it's really muddy and kind of dangerous for like my ankle and stuff. So although this is really steep, I just haul one bucket at a time up to the halfway point, and then it kind of pans out up there, and then I'll grab both of them and walk it through. But definitely deep in the bush here is where my water source is. We're at the bottom of the hill, so it just comes out. I could dig another one of these holes, only like, there's a bunch of places, like within 10-20 feet of here, there's a bunch of places where this seep's coming out. So if I dig a hole anywhere over here, I'll run into water like this. This was just where I had found it first and where I dug first, and it's produced a lot of water. It's all the water that we've needed so far, but it's just quite a haul that I have to do every single time I need water. Go up this hill and then like through like, I don't know, 500 or 600 yards of my property, and then I'll get to the greenhouse and the garden area. Alright, well, I'm gonna haul this water. Alright, it's August 3rd, and it's like, I don't know, day 97, something like that. Door is on the outhouse, finally. So this is one outhouse completed, though these nails were too long, so they went through the door, and I figured if I bent them over, that would actually keep the door together a little bit better, which it probably is, but they look god awful. And if you lean against that door, you get poked by them, so they're probably pretty dangerous. I'm gonna have to go through with a grinder and at least cut the spikes off of them. I figured if a bear got up on it and was trying to get in there, that he'd poke himself with the nails and it might deter him. But I guess that's probably not worth it. I need to just cut those off because when the kids are up here, they might get caught on that or something. Got a handle, got a latch. Everything went pretty good with making this door. This is the first door I've ever made. And it isn't completely even in the sense that the back of it there, that stuff isn't like completely squared up, but it's pretty damn good. And it's not sagging at all. Opening and shutting fine. So there it is. There's the first outhouse. Oh, we have a piece of plywood that we're waiting for the mill to bring because it's too big to put in the car. We're gonna put over this, and then we'll put the metal roofing back on, and you won't be able to see daylight through there. Actually, this metal roofing is going on the other outhouse because it's a little bit thinner, and then we have 2 pieces of new metal roofing. So we can put we want to put a 2-inch overhang on front and back, which the metal roofing they delivered wasn't long enough to do that, but it'll be long enough to do on the other cabin, on the other outhouse. So this piece of metal is going to go down there if they ever deliver these stuff. They only come out this far when they have a whole truckload, so it's been taking at least 2 weeks, 3 weeks before they'll come and deliver. So I go and get what supplies I can fit on the car, but whatever I can't fit on the Escape, I have to wait for them to deliver. So we're waiting for a couple pieces of plywood, and we're waiting for a couple pieces of roofing sheet metal. But here it is. There's the outhouse. There's the old hole. Nobody's used it yet, so I don't know. Guess I gotta get on using that. Christen that bad boy. But pretty good. I don't know, this is one of the first buildings I've ever built completely on my own, and she's pretty sturdy. She doesn't rock in the wind, and the door's not sagging, so only time will tell how good it is. Sorry, I shook the camera all up, but these damn mosquitoes are still so bad out here right now. Definitely July and August are pretty miserable times for mosquitoes on my property, and I guess it goes into September too. But once September comes, the nights will be getting cold enough that they won't be able to survive. So I'm looking forward to that. It's also been about 85 degrees and 60 to 80% humidity every day for the last month. So I'm looking forward to getting past that too. I start chopping firewood in the next couple days, but man, this outhouse looks sweet. Yeah, canvas tent in the background. Now there's a place to take a dump. Gotta love it. 100-acre plantation. Summertime. Getting stuff done. 2019. Oh, let's see if I can latch this thing. Nice. DEECEE's Adventures. Off-grid living project. See you guys in the next one. Okay, can you even see me? Probably not. So it's been a couple days, but I didn't tell you guys that someone showed up at the end of the driveway who was lost. And it was a man in his like late 50s, early 60s, and you know, he just looked like an old man who just walked through the woods for a long time. But I came out from the cabin to cut a piece of wood, and he was at the end of the driveway hitting rocks together, trying to get my attention because he could hear my hammer. And he needed directions because he was really lost. But you know, way out here, you don't get people on foot very often, so you get worried about it at first because you don't know if someone's trying to pull something on you or if it's a dangerous situation. So I was sketched out at first. So anyways, he tells me where he started, and he went through the woods like 8 or 9 miles, and then also walked down our road Well, he went through the woods about 4 or 5 miles, and then he also walked down the road like 7 miles to get to where I was at. And he said he stopped in the brook and jumped in the brook because he was just sweating and dying. So I grabbed some waters from my car, gave him some waters, and showed him a map. And then when he told me where he was heading to, I was like, well, you want me to give you a ride? So we went to get into the vehicle. And when we went to get in the vehicle, he was like, oh, I have an axe tucked in the back of my pants. Um, I don't want you to get scared or anything. And I said, well, I'm carrying a firearm, so I don't want you to get scared, but I'm not worried about the axe. And he was like, oh, okay, and damn, alarm went off. But then he said he wanted to put the axe in the back of the vehicle just so if we got pulled over, he wouldn't get like a concealed weapon or anything, you know. He didn't want to have it on him. So we put it in the back of the vehicle, and then we head down the road, and then we actually went in the wrong direction when we got to the turn that he said he remembered. And then after we went down that road for a little while, I realized it was the wrong way. And we looked at a map, and he told me where he was at, and we went the other way and went back, and then went down this crazy dirt road, like kind of in the middle of nowhere, which is sketchy again. And then we pulled up to his vehicle. It was parked at a property that he's owned since the 80s, he said, and he hasn't really come up here much, and he was looking at the property. And he went to walk back off of the property, and he missed the road and ended up in the woods all day long. So we got him back to his car, and then I went back to working on the cabin. So that was a pretty crazy experience, and, you know, I was the first person who showed up at the property lost. So then, about an hour later, I go out to cut another piece of wood, and there's another guy about 15 years younger standing at the chain at the end of the driveway. And I was like, hey, can I help you? And after just dealing with that other guy, I was really worried. And he said, yeah, I'm lost. And I said, what do you mean you're lost? Because I was getting sketched out. Because I thought it was maybe the guy before had said something about his son coming to pick him up, and I was like, maybe this is that guy's son and they're trying to pull a scam or something. I'm way out in the woods. There's nobody out here, you know. It's a roadway here, but there is no power on it, or it's a route that is for logging trucks, really. So I got all sketched out and was like, well, I don't mean to sound weary about you, but someone just came through here an hour ago and was lost, and I drove them all over the place. and I was like, told him my name. I was like, hi, I'm Dave. And when he shook my hand, he was like, my name's Joe. And I was like, huh. And I was thinking that was weird because that's my neighbor's name. And then he was like, no, dude, I'm your neighbor. And I was like, dude, I'm sorry. He was like, I'm just effing with you. And I was like, dude, you have no idea how weird that is. Because I hadn't met my neighbor yet. So I was like, dude. Alright, so I don't know why that clip was cut off there. But anyways, I told the neighbor that some guy had just claimed to be lost. And we shared a laugh about how weird the situation was. Look at that beautiful little cucumber. About 5 days, that thing will be plump and beautiful. Only harvested 3 green beans out of this so far, but it looks like a bunch are starting. Well, here's the corn. I got some pollen going. I don't see any, well, I see the corn coming up, but there's no hairs yet. So, things are looking better in the garden. It's like August 6th today, and the temperatures have gotten better. It's like high 70s to low 80s, and the humidity isn't that terrible, so it's pretty comfortable now, and the garden is taking a lot less water. So it's looking pretty good, actually. And yesterday I had grabbed some bat guano pellets, and I put some of those throughout the garden, And then I also broke some down in a bucket of water and watered all of this with that. So that's like a 10-10-2. So that should be some pretty good fertilization. It should get this corn jumping. And all of the squash, I have tons of fruit on the squash, but since it's having such a hard time with water, they weren't swelling. Well, now they're swelling, and fed them yesterday, so now everything should get really big and finished up, and we should have a lot of summer squash and zucchini here, and the pumpkins should get going too. I got a couple pumpkins over there, but they're still green and just starting. Oh, and I have some butternut squash, which is my favorite. The corn's looking pretty good, starting to jump. Those green beans are gonna be delicious. Next year I need to plant green beans by themselves. I tried growing them up the corn, but the corn just kind of blocks all the sunlight to them. So I'm just gonna put them on a trellis or put them along this fence. Maybe I'll grow them along the fence, all the way around the fence. Oh, there's a mosquito on the palm of my hand. Oh man, so much blood. Freaking mosquitoes, I hate them. So I think this is one of those icebox watermelons, the little teeny sugar babies. And this is a butternut squash. Here's another one, butternut squash. That's a fall crop, so those take a long time to grow, but those are my favorite. Those squashes are so good. You boil them and then mash them up with some butter. Man, that's a good squash right there. I don't know if anybody knows what that is, but it's some kind of fungus, and it's growing in the wood chips. But you can see it's going over the vine. It's going over the vine. So it is like parasitic probably, and it's probably gonna kill some of these plants. So I don't know what that is. If anybody knows, leave it in the comments down below. Some sort of fungus. A tomato plant has a big tomato starting on it. Super psyched. Yeah, and doing the layers, like doing the grass first, a really thick layer of grass, and then putting the chips over it. The only place I had weeds were the places that I didn't put like a thick layer, enough of it. Everywhere else was weed free in the garden. And the only weeds I pretty much had coming up in the garden are these flowers. It's like this right here. That's the only weed, and there's not a lot of them. Like every time I go through here, I pull one or two up, and they grow pretty fast, whatever they are. But it kind of looks like fireweed. So I don't know exactly what it is, but it's a pretty flower. So I'm letting them grow on the side here, but before they go to seed, I'll probably cut them down just so they're not spreading into this area for next year. Things are going pretty good. This side was definitely too sandy for squash, but this garden is kind of too big for me to haul water. I mean, hopefully I'm going to get a well by next year, but with a hose and everything. But in general, this is too much space. I can take care of that space with hauling water, but this whole space here I can't. But the potatoes didn't need any water. So I'm just going to do all potatoes on this side on the hugelkultur bed next year. Too much squash anyways. You know, I'm gonna give a lot of this away to neighbors. I won't even be able to eat all this. But that's why that side of the garden looks a lot nicer than this side. This side's sandier, and it's a lot harder to keep all the squash and pumpkins watered over here. But that stuff I water really hard every morning. It's looking so good. Pumped. Yeah, and it's getting, I gotta count the days, but I think it's pretty close to day 100 out here. Still just living it up in the canvas tent. Loving it.